Hey Nathan, good evening. Welcome to your one-on-one tutorial. It's my pleasure to serve you today. Okay, so Nathan, today we are going to look at some more grammar practice, right? So basically think of it as a continuation of class from earlier, but it's just going to be you this time, right? So we'll look at these assignments in depth and see what we need to do, what skills are being tested, and if we can figure out the errors in the sentences, right? Just give me 1 second. Okay, great. So we have our grammar paragraph. We're doing the same thing where we identify the line and write the correction. So first we have to read our entire paragraph. Jellyfish have drifted on ocean currents for millions of years, even before dinosaurs lived on the earth. The jelly-like creatures doesn't attack humans purposeful. They are abundant in cold and warm ocean waters and coastlines, making it easy for contact to people. Jellyfish have tiny stinging cells in its tentacles to stun unwary preys. The more dangerous thing about them is their sting. Okay, so what do you think is looking a little bit off in that first line?
Drift.
Right, so drift definitely should not be next to have, right? And we looked at that a lot today. We said that once you have that helping verb have, it's usually followed by the past participle, right? So what should we replace drift with?
Drifted.
Right, beautiful. So sometimes your past participle is the same as your past tense if you have a regular verb like drift, right? But for some other verbs, it will be an entirely different word. Okay, good. So what about number 14?
Doesn't.
Right, because does not implies singular, and we're talking about more than one jellyfish, right? It says the jelly-like creatures. So what should doesn't be?
Does not.
It's kind of the same thing, right? Doesn't means does not. So if does is singular, what's the plural?
Do not.
Right, so we could say do not or don't. It doesn't matter which one you put. Once you say don't or do not, you get the mark either way because it's telling the examiner that you realize that you need to have the plural next to the jelly-like creatures. Okay, good job so far. What about the third one?
Purposeful.
Beautiful. And why is purposeful wrong?
Because of the FUL.
Sorry?
Because of the FUL at the end.
So it should be purposefully, right?
Yeah.
Purposefully, which will be an adverb, right? Because it is describing how the jelly-like creatures attack, or rather how they do not attack, right? So it is modifying or describing this verb attack. Purposeful, is that an adjective or an adverb?
Adverb.
Just purposeful is an adjective, right? Purposeful can describe a noun, but purposefully, remember we looked at creating adverbs from adjectives. We can add that ly, and just like that, magically, we get an adverb that will help us to modify or describe our verb. All right, what about 16?
I'm not really sure what's happening with.
Making it easy for contact to people. Does that
Unroll
make sense?
between making it easy for contact to people.
So you don't make contact to something, right?
With
Right. So we needed to change that preposition, contact with. There are certain phrases that go together. So contact to, you wouldn't really see that. You'll see contact with. So inappropriate preposition that we needed to replace. All right, good job so far. What about 17?
have,
Have is actually okay. If you look at the first line, you see have follow a jellyfish, and that was fine. So what have is telling us is that jellyfish is being used as a plural noun here, right? So jellyfish is plural, so we can say jellyfish have, and that's fine. So what should we change?
pray is supposed to be pray.
We could leave praise as it is, actually. There's something else that looks a little bit off. So if we have jellyfish and we know that it is plural here, are we seeing anything that is not agreeing with this being plural?
Tentacles.
What about its? Its means possessive, right? But it is also a singular possessive adjective, right? So we know that jellyfish here is being thought of as plural because we saw jellyfish have. And yes, the plural of jellyfish can be jellyfish. So we know it's plural, so we have there as well, right? But what about its tentacles? It's not agreeing in number, right? Because its would be singular. You following, Nathan?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right? So instead of its, what can we replace it with? We need a plural possessive adjective.
It's supposed to be the.
Okay, let me put it this way for you, right? So we can talk about one dog. We could say the dog wags its tail. But if we have two dogs, the dogs wag,
There.
right? So we will actually want to replace its with their. Put it in red. So watch out for your pronoun agreement. Make sure it agrees in number, make sure it agrees in gender if it is something that has a gender, right? And what about 18?
Most supposed to be most.
Right, because out of everything about them, the most dangerous is their sting. So we need that superlative comparison, right? And there we have our grammar section completed, right? So let's look at the skills we were tested on for this one. For the first one, we were tested on knowing to form the tense, right? This is the present perfect tense, where we have the have plus the past participle. If you have a question where you have had and then you were asked to give the past participle, that would be the past perfect, right? But have is the present perfect. They like to bring these sorts of questions. So they would put the present tense of the verb or the past tense of the verb next to have, and you have to pick up on that and say, okay, that should be your past participle. And then we had our subject verb agreement here. The jelly-like creatures, we shouldn't say doesn't, because doesn't will appeal to one, but do not or don't is actually the plural, so we needed to agree, right? Then we had to change the adjective to the adverb by adding ly, because we are modifying this verb attack. Attack how? Purposefully. Then we looked at the misplaced proposition. They bring these a lot as well, so you have to be really good with your prepositions, right? Jellyfish have tiny stinging cells in their tentacles, so you need to recognize that it's plural and then use the plural. So if you have its, you should go to there, and then of course more should go to most if you're comparing more than two things. All right, so you want to try another one?
Yes.
Okay, great. Practice makes perfect. And this is the best kind of practice because it's very similar to how the exam will come, right? So if you can get these down, then you have nothing to worry about. Okay, so let's look at this one.
Is supposed to be
Yes, yes. But first, read the entire paragraph. It's a good practice, right?
yes.
But that is correct. The school vacations are enjoyable times for my best friends and I. These are times we visit our beautiful beaches. We get to sit quiet under the coconut trees and build mighty sandcastles by ourselves. We enjoy looking at the milky clouds, although we sit and eat on the sand. Our happiest moments are looking at the bunch of seagulls fly over our heads. Okay, so what about the second line? What is wrong there?
Oh, supposed to be the
For which one?
second one.
Which one is supposed to be the?
Oh, supposed to be the
Our? No, that's okay. Our is fine. Something else is wrong there.
visit. Supposed to be visited.
No, because look at the tense that was being used in the first sentence. The school vacations are, so we are using the present tense. So if you notice, the entire paragraph is actually using the present tense, so that's fine. Right? So these are times we get to sit, we enjoy looking, we sit and eat, our happiest moments are. So that's fine. That's a good way to figure out if you need to change your tense though. Look at the tense that's being used in your paragraph, and if your paragraph is using all past and then you see one simple present or something like that, you know it's probably going to be the tense that you need to change. But in this case, the tense is fine because it is meshing well with the rest of the tenses. The rest of the tenses are also in the present, right? But we actually have another thing we should be looking at.
Yes, I'm not too sure about this, but could I be the error
Yes, I is absolutely the error.
and change it to me?
Right, so we know that I is a subject pronoun. It will only ever appear in the subject of your sentence. Me is our object pronoun. So we needed to analyze the sentence and figure out where the subject and the object lie. So the school vacations actually, that's the subject of our sentence because that's what the sentence is about. Are enjoyable times for who? For my best friends and me, right? So my best friends and me, we're not the subject of the sentence, we're actually the object. But what the sentence is really about is the school vacations. So we know that we have to use the object pronoun me instead of I. Is that clear?
Yes.
Perfect. What about number 15?
Quiet's supposed to be quietly.
Lovely. Because you are describing how you get to sit, so you need an adverb, not an adjective. What about 16?
Ourselves supposed to be ourselves.
Lovely. So there's no such word as ourself. It's a plural reflexive pronoun, so it must be ourselves. What about 17?
Are supposed to be will.
Remember, we said that the tenses were okay, right? We said that we are using the present tense for the entire paragraph. Yeah? If you look at the tense used, all of it is in the present tense. So we do not need to use would. We could leave are just as it is. So try again. Look at the sentence before. We enjoy looking at the milky clouds, although we sit and eat on the sand.
Sit supposed to be sat.
Remember, we still are using the present tense. So the tense is fine. Our verbs are fine. What do you think about the word although?
Although supposed to be though.
Although and though are pretty much the same thing, so I wouldn't say that. So we enjoy looking at the milky clouds, although we sit and eat on the sand. So although means showing some sort of contrast, right? Some sort of difference. But I don't think that's the conjunction we should use here. So we're talking about school vacation times and the good times we're having. I don't think we should use although. I think we should use something like while. Do you think that fits a little bit better?
Yes.
So not only your prepositions can be inappropriate for your sentence, right? Sometimes your conjunctions can be as well. So when you have your conjunctions in your grammar section, you want to make sure and look at it carefully and see if it really fits into your sentence. Okay, and what about 18?
Fly is supposed to be flying.
Fly is actually okay as it is, but there's something else.
A collective noun.
Right? So, what is the collective noun for seagulls? A collection of seagulls.
A troop.
Troop is
Buffer.
for monkeys, but yes, flock, right? Birds usually would use that flock. So, for this one, what did we look at? We saw the difference in subject and object pronoun. We saw the subject-verb agreement here. In number 15, we did the same adjective to adverb. Ourself, the reflexive pronoun that does not exist, so we changed it to ourselves. Although we said was not fitting in very nicely in our sentence, so we changed it to a more appropriate conjunction, while, and we changed the collective noun that was used to flock. Right? Sometimes the conjunction can be a little bit tricky to spot, but if you really look at the sentence and think about it, although it doesn't really make sense there. So if we're sitting and eating on the sand, why can't we enjoy looking at the milky clouds, right? It doesn't make sense. So we can look at the clouds while we sit and eat on the sand. That's fine. All right, Nathan, I think we have some time for one more. You want to try one more with me? All right, great. Whoa, okay. All right, cool. So Trinidad and Tobago was thrown in mourning on Monday, 8th January 2018, since former President George Maxwell Richard dies. The news of the president's passing were posted by his daughter, Maxine Richards, on social media. He would have been 87 years this year. He did his job good. So you know what my question is going to be? What is the first error? This one is a little bit harder to identify, but look at it properly. Trinidad and Tobago was thrown in mourning.
Morning.
No, mourning is fine, but I think that in can use a little bit of an improvement.
In supposed to be out.
No, you can't be thrown out mourning, right? So to throw into mourning. That's the
Miss,
expression.
what that morning mean? Like morning, daylight.
No, so the morning, as in like daylight, that's spelled morning. But mourning is where you are grieving because someone has died. So it's basically being very, very sad about someone passing away. So whenever we have that phrase thrown into mourning, it shouldn't be in, right? Into is what comes before the word morning. So that's just a phrase that you can probably that's a phrase you can probably take a note of. Thrown into mourning. morning. Thrown into mourning. You'd usually see that phrase when someone passes away. Right? So when you're ready, look at number 14.
Since
Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't say the country was thrown into mourning since, but you'd say it was thrown into mourning. What?
when
Right. When President George Maxwell Richards dies, the news of the president's passing. What about number 15?
die supposed to be died.
Right. So it happened already. It's in the past. The news were posted by his daughter Maxine Richards on.
Who's supposed to be was?
Right, because news is one of those nouns that looks plural, but we actually use the singular verb. So we'll say the news was, not the news were. What about 17?
Of supposed to be have.
Good. So we never say would of, we say would have. And lastly, number 18.
What's supposed to be well?
Beautiful. So you wouldn't say he did his job good. We say he did his job well. Right? So well would be the adverb that we need to have instead of that adjective good. So very, very good job. So thrown into mourning when he died. The news is singular, even though it looks plural, so we use was. Would have, we never say would of. And instead of saying he did his job good, which is an adjective, we use the adverb form of good, which is well. All right, Nathan, how are you feeling about what we've practiced tonight?
Good.
Yeah, I think you're doing a lot better with your grammar. Next time we meet is it Wednesday? Let me check. Right. So our next one-on-one is on Wednesday, and we will definitely look at the family tree graphic. That's no problem. And if we have some time, we can still practice some more grammar. How does that sound?
Good.
All right. Well, great job, Nathan. I think you've definitely improved. So keep up the great work, and I will see you on Wednesday. So thank you for choosing BetterGradesFast.com. Feel free to leave some feedback when the meeting ends, and I hope you have a great night. Bye, Nathan. Thank you.